Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am Tony Oltman, and I want to ask Marla and Carlton if they would just introduce themselves too.
All right, welcome everyone. Most of y'all already know who I am, but I am the mission specialist for the office.
My name is Carlton Johnson. I serve, of course, as the coordinator for the Office of Vital Congregations, and I also serve as the associate director for the Office of Theology, Formation, and Evangelism. So thank you and welcome. Thank you, Tony.
You're muted, Tony.
Well, let me say that again. Thank you for sharing and introducing yourselves, Carlton and Marla. And I want to introduce Jerry Cannon.
Thank you so much. Y'all, glad to see your faces and hear, and those who are listening to this later on, I would bid you a very happy Lenten season. Greetings to you from 2000 Market Street, the home of the Board of Pensions, where we are committed to serve God and to serve members. So looking forward to sharing a little bit about how the Board of Pensions in particular can minister to the needs of those within the urban network.
All right. Fantastic. I can't remember the order that we had said that we were going to.
No problem, Tony. I'll share just a brief bio of Dr. Cannon, and then we'll turn it back over to him. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So the Reverend Dr. Jerry L. Cannon serves as Vice President, Ministry Innovation at the Board of Pensions of the Presbyterian Church, U.S.A. He serves Jerry leads and directs the board's dues incentive programs, exploring solutions that will break new ground in the support of small church and non-traditional ministries. He also manages the board's relationship with churches and caucus groups, including the National Black Presbyterian Caucus, National Caucus of Korean Presbyterian Churches, and Hispanic Latinx National Presbyterian Caucus. A lifelong Presbyterian who has long been active in the national church, Jerry served more than 30 years as pastor of C.N. Jenkins Memorial Presbyterian Church, a thriving congregation in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of the largest Black congregations in the PC U.S.A. The congregation nearly tripled in size during his service and engaged in extensive community-based ministry and bridge building. Jerry has had several high-profile roles with the Presbyterian Church USA, including leadership within the African American Intercultural Congregational Support Office. Wow, Jerry. He is a former member of the Board of Pensions Board of Directors, serving on the Assistance and Pensions Committee, and currently serves as one of two board representatives to the Diverse Voices table of the PCUSA. If that isn't enough, Jerry holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Virginia State University, a Master of Divinity from the Interdenominational Theological Center, Johnson C. Smith Theological Seminary, and a Doctor of Ministry from the United Theological Seminary. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you Reverend Dr. Jerry Cannon.
Thank you, Marla. Praise God from whom all blessings flow. But I'm glad to know that my name was somewhere on that piece of paper you were reading. So to God be the glory. And to all of those, again, listening live as well as who will listen on the recorded version, it's an honor to kind of speak before you. Just a little bit about I think while I was asked to share today, particularly to the network to which I've grown fond of, having served in an urban setting for all of my ordained ministry, even in seminary, from Atlanta to Washington, D.C., and into Charlotte. I do know some of the ills, some of the challenges that are particular around urban centers. Sometimes we have more building than we have people, and other times we have more people and not enough building. So I share the pain, but also the responsibility to be faithful to where God is calling us to be and to become. In this role at the Board of Pensions, as Marla had introduced, in this season of rebuilding, kind of like want to start there and not work my way backwards, but start there talking about what does it mean to be in a season of rebuilding and how does that apply to the urban network. the board of pensions here in Philadelphia has identified that we cannot continue to do things as we once did with the methods and the structures that once led us to this solid foundation. And I say that without apology, that the Board of Pensions is fully funded. I say without apologetics that the services they provide is one that will see this generation and generations coming. The Board of Pension is committed to assisting the benefits plan structure to best meet the needs of the transforming church and to serve the most people possible. And I'd say that again because we oftentimes think, do we have enough resources to serve and to meet the needs? The answer is yes. Now, the board's vision, as we see, the board's vision is to take care of all ministers ordained in the PC-USA. The question would be why? Why now? We recognize is that if it hadn't been changed in 40 years, somebody is not being served. We want to do better and do more. What we realize also, y'all, is as a result of fewer and fewer churches in a position to afford a full-time pastor, as well as a number of ministers who are actively in the benefits plan of the Presbyterian church is declining. That's why the board is saying we are in a season of rebuilding. Now, the challenge, though, is that we have churches that are not in a position to call and install. And so we are opening up the enrollment to commission ruling elders, I think they're called. So in addition to ordained ministers, you have commission ruling elders who will be eligible to enroll with some of the benefit packages of the church. Now, questions?
I didn't know if you wanted that to be sharing now. And if so, we need to get that going for you as well, because here I don't see it.
Okay, yes, and thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I'm going to pull that up. Just one more bullet point, one more point that I wanted to make in terms of the challenge and really talk about some of the incentive programs that go beyond, shall we say, the traditional enrollment. And that is, as you said, Reverend Johnson, that we have a declining membership, declining number of preachers. But again, the reality of it is we have so many churches that are not in a position to call a full-time pastor. Statistically, African-American churches, less than, we're about 20% of those congregations having an installed pastor. So when you understand that, that is only 2 out of 10 African-American congregations with an installed pastor. As we're looking at the candidates pool for ministers coming in, there is a larger number, again, of commission ruling elders who are going to be serving congregations. Let me go now to the screen share and just really pull up some of, in terms of assistance program that we have. Share that from the beginning. Now, I'm going to give you a note. You might hear me say this again. The board can do a lot for members, but they have to be members. Okay. The board can do a lot for its members, but they have to be members. You say do a lot. What does that mean? Well, through our assistance program, there's a clergy wellness support, which you see on the screen, a respite and vocational support up to $5,000 for program and travel fees for persons to attend events around wellness. The eligibility for that, persons enrolled in pastor's participation, as well as minister's choice. Okay, if the effective salary is less than $80,000 per year, excluding man's, you qualify for it. And that is important because as we are looking to how do we provide a place and a space for clergy to renew themselves. We know that the whole lockdown, the COVID pandemic, and even living in a post-quarantine, if you want to call it, or at least I call it in between surges, that in and of itself has been a challenge to clergy. And the Board of Pension wants, again, persons who are enrolled to benefit from these particular offerings. We have educational debt relief. And as you see on the screen, up to 150 grants in 2023, $5,000 per year, up to 5 years. So if you're speaking to a pastor who says, wow, I'm just inundated with seminary grant, with undergrad that led towards seminary, or anything that relates to that, this is debt for a national student loan lender that the Board of Pension provides that. So there may be a church that says, wow, we can't really afford to pay the pastor a $5,000 increase. But if you enroll this pastor into the Board of Pensions, then they can apply for this education debt relief. What's the eligibility? Employed at least 20 hours per week. Medical plan enrollment for at least 6 months. And again, salary does not exceed $80,000. And so we're saying again is that if you are enrolled, there are certain benefits to which you can take advantage of. Members, ministers, and retirees, a total of $6,500 to assist with adoptions. Emergency assistance. And I say this with emphasis because sometimes people are saying, well, I did not know that I could get help for a bill that was unexpected, be it medical, be it home expense. During the hurricanes last fall, there were so many applications and so many grants given that it was a part of the board's mission, emergency assistance. This comes in the form of, even if someone says my car broke down, I don't have the $3,000-4,000 to replace the engine. Well, that's an emergency. Well, you make the application, and this can be a way. So anybody who is enrolled, again, we're not talking ministers only, we're talking ministers, lay. If you are enrolled in the board program, you are eligible for these kinds of assistance programs. Retiree medical grants, transition to college. And this is so important, because now with the new eligibility on that is that retired members and surviving spouse receiving a pension benefit, who can get the transferred, the college transfer if you are retired, or if you are the spouse receiving a pension benefit and someone needs to transition to college assistance. Yes, up to $3,000, and that is a significant amount of money. Minister debt relief, again, if you're under that threshold of $80,000, you can apply. Minister debt, it simply means that whatever the debt may be, because we believe that a minister who is inundated with phone calls from MasterCard and Visa, American Express and Macy's, or whoever else that you have an affinity for, Best Buy, it's hard for you to do Bible study when you are dodging the phones from the 800 numbers. And it's just one of those life kind of challenges. So the board has a grant program that helps you, one, understand what debt is, understand how to become more of a manager of your money, to be put on a budget. Educational debt assistance, we talked about that, 5 years at $5,000, a total of $25,000. And again, the sabbatical support. And sabbatical support is very important because it allows you, that is, a grant has been increased to $5,000. So if you are a member, did I say that earlier? If you are a member of the board, there are many resources that the board can provide for you. We mentioned the emergency assistance, transition to college, those particular programs from the board. Now, we will have some time for question and answer. Let me pause right there that we can talk about the assistance program, and then I can also talk about the dues and incentives. But any questions on the assistance program at this time?
I do have a question, Jerry. I
Sure.
apologize, Tony. You can go ahead and go.
Okay, how can clergy or members find out more information or find applications for these programs?
Thank you. Thank you. You can go to pensions.org. That's where I would recommend to start there. And each region, from coast to coast, from Maine to Miami, from Seattle to San Diego, and all points in between, there is a regional representative. And simply call them. They would love to have these conversations with you. The assistance program, we have a director by the name of Ruth Adams. She can be contacted again at the 800 pension number to speak specifically about those. But your regional rep has that information. So thank you. Good question. And one that we always try to go back to. We have persons that are literally waiting for your call. And hopefully they can assist you with that.
That was part one of my question. So thank you, Tony. The second question that I had was, what would be a drawback from not signing up? Why is it that all ministers are not enrolled?
Thank you. And we've come across several responses to that. Generally, is that the employing agency is the one that has to provide the benefits, which is a local congregation. And they will say, okay, we are, quote, small with limited resources. And if their income is not to the point where they can feel as though they can pay the full percentage of pastor participation, they may not be aware of minister's choice. Minister's choice is simply 10% of one's salary. And so if the minister is working, the commissioner, ruling elder is working, and the salary is $20,000, well, for $2,000, you can now enroll that person into our plan. But because they are now enrolled, guess what? They are also eligible to participate in the options of dental, the options of eye care. I mean, think about that. For less than, I think it was less than $4 a month, a person can get complete eye care with an exam and a pair of glasses. Well, churches will say, well, we can't afford to give a 5% raise to our musician. Can you afford to invest $4 a month in your musician and let that person have some eye care? Same thing about dental. It too is a very nominal cost. But the point is, when you start talking about the benefits, it's like this. If an employee gets a W-2 from your church, or religious organization that is related to Presbyterian Church, then they are eligible to be enrolled in some form or fashion. And the reason that we don't have so many people enrolled is because of choice. Now, the other reality is somebody would say, well, my significant other, my partner, my spouse, they have insurance, so I'm on their insurance, and that's fine. However, if you are Presbyterian ordained, it may be wise for your employer to enroll you in some of these benefits, because once you're enrolled in one, you makes you eligible to apply for others. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Thank you for that.
Okay. All right. I do want to share, if I can, let's see here. I talked about the assistance program. See if I could get the other one. Let's talk about the dues incentive program. Okay. And I'll come back to Zoom is a great thing when you have somebody in the tech department who knows how to do it. You ask a preacher behind a pulpit, I can find you Genesis and Revelations and the page numbers for the rest of the books. But let me see if I can do the PowerPoint share. All right, here we go. And we'll go. I'm sorry, which program? Do you see an assistance program? Is that what's being shared now?
It's the Pathways to Renewal.
Okay, that's not the one I want here. I told y'all you should have asked the usher to do this.
Yeah.
New share. Okay, I want to go new share. Yes. Okay, y'all come up with some questions until I can figure this thing out. All right, we'll try it this way. Aha. Okay. All right, so you see Pathways to Renewal?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm trying to get into the slideshow, but that black screen up there that has all the little notes is covering up all of my little directions.
Can you see the little button down at the bottom of the screen that'll click it to? I think.
I just want y'all to leave those directions alone. Okay, is that not, that's the old one though, right?
No, we
Minister
still see
activity.
pathways to renewal. Yes, sir. We still see that.
Well, let me just talk about pathways to renewal, and I promise that in the next presentation, I will have this more polished. Don't tell Carlton, please.
We won't.
He's
We're
not
doing
listening
great.
at all. He's not listening at all.
What this I throughout the dues incentives is just that, and that's the bottom line of what we're trying to do here, is to allow congregations that may have said that they don't have the resources for a full-time pastor to recognize there are ways that you could become and enroll pastors into participation. The church, again, the qualifications are having 100 and fewer members. For African American churches, 300 or fewer members. Not had an installed pastor for at least 2 years and not elected a PNC. Under 40 years old. And what we're trying to do here is that really encourage younger pastors who are less than 40, as well as churches who are looking for a pastor, not to discriminate based upon a person's age limit. Sometimes, as I have looked at CIFs, they've indicated, I want a pastor with 10 years experience. Or I want someone who, comes to the game with a little bit more season. Well, this Pathways to Renewal is a dues incentive program that allows the church to pay a reduced amount of dues, okay, and still have their minister enroll. And this is where, again, we're talking 22% of effective salary as compared to full participation. The dues discount rate runs for 5 years until the end of the relationship. So this is one way to which we're asking and inviting congregations not to let the cost factor stop them from enrolling somebody into the plan. Okay. There's a program, again, coming under the department, I think that Carlton leads with New Church Development. We call them 1,001 congregations and evangelists. Again, a dues incentive program where the dues themselves, the cost of the Presbyterian is free for the first 3 years and reduced costs through year 5. It includes all benefits of pastor's participation. So what we're saying here is for persons who feel a calling upon their life to do some new and innovative things around ministry, boom, the Board of Pension is here to help subsidize by way of a dues incentive program. Now, it still costs, but the cost is not as sharp as though it was a straight up billing to an organization. Does that make sense to you? Okay. How does it work? Be ordained minister of word and sacrament, employed by the Presbyterian Church. We call them 301 grants for no less than 20 hours a week, not currently enrolled in past participation, and not have initiated a retirement benefit with the Board of Pensions. Again, grants and dues of how this comes to you, established at a minimum participation level, a grant issued as a credit for the Presbyterian's monthly bill, and the first 3 years covered at 100%, then 2/3 for year 4, 1/3, and covered for year 5. So the objective is, how can we again get more people enrolled and more people participating in the program? Okay. Now I'm going to stop screen sharing here so that I can answer some other questions as it relates to our dues incentive programs as well as our assistant program.
I do have a question.
Thank you.
On the last one, the paths to renewal, in eligibility, you have to be an ordained minister of word and sacrament. Many
Yes.
of our 1,001 new worshiping communities are started by commission ruling elders, also known as commission pastors.
Mm-hmm.
So does that make them not eligible?
Not for the Pathways program, but there are other programs to which they can be enrolled.
Right.
And thank you for bringing that up, because we're recognizing now that there's a growing pool of commission ruling elders Not to say there's a declining pool of ordained ministers, but because we have a positive on one side, let's see what we can do for commission ruling elders. And so that ministers' participation is one of the ways to which the boundaries are being expanded. But thank you. But pathways is particular for those. Again, you take a church that again has not had an installed pastor, does not have an active PNC, but there is life, there is mission, there's potential, and you have a ordained minister or a person that's ready to be ordained that could qualify. But thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Other questions? What would you say would be one of the greatest gifts for the Urban Pastors Network that possibly the board could begin to explore? I mean, what kind of questions or issues has a network began to lift up that are concerns with this constituency?
Hey, Dr. Cannon. So I want to lift up this question, and maybe it's already there, and you can just let me know if it's already a consideration. Typically, when a pastor is in an urban setting, that is more specifically an inner city setting, the cost of living is a little higher than if they're in a suburban or rural setting. So I wonder, as benefits are considered for those pastors, especially those around such things as debt relief and so on and so forth, if, for lack of better words, if the zip code and the address is a part of the consideration, or might it be in the future?
Thank you. Good question. And I would respond to that to say that Presbytery can be a real advocate for that. It knows the local economy, but more so it knows the real estate. I take, for example, and not to be misquoted or quoted on this, but if you were to speak with Joy Lee, who is the Presbytery exec in San Jose, I think their minimum terms of call that includes the cost of living in San Jose, California, would be exceed some of the maximum calls in some presbyteries, simply because of the cost of living in San Jose, California. But the minister's debt relief would not be subject to your zip code. So if you are in San Jose, which a high cost of living, or if you were in another part of the country with not as high costs, the maximums for that debt relief would be eligible to you. But good question in terms of how we look at urban ministry. I will say a new program that we are exploring, we call it shared ministry. The Pittsburgh pilot, which Doug Ports, who's a part of our team here, is the vice president for our church engagement people, persons, and regional staff. But Doug headed that project as a pilot, and the Board of Pension was able to come alongside for churches who were sharing pastors. And it's not a yoked field, but it's a shared ministry. So you may be giving 20% of your time this week to Congregation A and 80% the next week. But it doesn't mean that you only give 20% to Congregation A every week. There may be some weeks that Congregation A gets 75% and Congregation B gets 25. But so our point is that the shared ministry, meaning that each congregation shares in the pension dues. Now, where the Board of Pension comes in is that it gives a grant, say, of $10,000. So if the pension dues are $20,000 and the Board of Pension gives $10,000, then the two congregations will divide how they will split the other 10. And that may be the 20-80 rule. That may be one congregation says, we can give 5 and we can give 5. Well, giving $5,000 a piece is a much different fee than a total of $20,000, if you understand what I'm saying. And that may be something that urban congregations may be interested in learning more about. I know the board is committed to expanding the project, and we're looking more at demographics as opposed to geography. And what I mean by that is that the demographics of, hypothetically, a Detroit Presbytery as well as the demographics of, is Ann Arbor in Detroit Presbytery? It is, okay. East Lansing is not, correct? All right, so both of those areas have an urban concentration, but what I'm saying is that if there's a shared ministry in East Lansing and a shared ministry in Detroit, it's not frowned upon that the state of Michigan has two shared ministries. No, you just have some concentrated areas. Same would be if you look at Cincinnati, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. Well, why does Ohio have three shared ministries, projects going on? Because there's a concentration thereof, if that makes sense to you. And so that's what we're really encouraging leaders like yourself and urban networks to say, well, what can we do differently? What can we do that's going to bring some life where the quote, I use those air quotes tenderly, but it's been that we can't afford the pastor because of the pension requirement. Well, let's just take the pension requirement off the table. Now, it's not going to be free, all right, but there are some innovative ways of financing it.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. I'm going to be off video again, but I'm still listening.
One of the questions I have, or one of the growing edges I'd like to see the board take on, deals with bivocational pastors and the fact that many of the bivocational pastors are in African American churches or new worshiping communities. When you're bivocational, you don't have paid time off from your other job either. So there's no paid time off for Presbyterian meetings or continuing ed, and those type of things often require days off. I know if I were to go to a Presbyterian meeting now, or when I was bivocational, I'd have to travel about 3 hours one way, go for a meeting, and then 3 hours back, and it was a whole day without pay or childcare or any of those other things that are required. And then if there was a continuing ed event, I'd have to take time off from both positions. So I don't know if there's something the board can do for assisting with, especially with continuing ed, because I would hate to see any sort of divide begin or continue.
And thank you, Tony. That's a very good illustration, but also of a reality checkpoint that sometimes we don't have full participation or more robust participation of pastors because they're bivocational. And though that the church gives some latitude for attending meetings and continuing education events, that other job may not. So you have to take, PTO for that. I do know that the board does again grant some educational relief. The board does allow that emergency request. It allows a grant in the funding of the sabbatical relief. And I say that because once you package the things that the board is able to do for you, not for you, I mean, but for an individual, then it does free up, hopefully, some income, X, Y, and Z, at $5,000 a year for 5 years for education relief, for that minister to say, wow, here I am as a beneficiary of the board that has my best interest at heart. Do I use that and take a personal day of PTO and go to a Presbyterian meeting? But it's one of those decisions. Again, the board itself wants for the well-being of the pastor to be numero uno, number one. How do we do that? We do it within the wheelhouse of the board. It is about securing the pensions of his members and providing benefits. And they're very much committed to that. I am grateful and humble to say that the board is well funded. And if you would look at our balance sheet, you would see, I think it's for every dollar that the board will pay out in pensions, it has $1.49 to do so. For every dollar that the board is obligated to pay out in death and benefits, it has $2.90 to do so. And so, in terms of the funding of what's in the bank, that's going to be taken care of. So what does it do with that surplus? That's where it comes with the dues incentives program. That's where it comes with the assistance program. That's where it can say, no, we're not just going to keep it in the bank until Jesus returns. But, in the meantime, let's see how we can help, as you said, Brother Tony, those pastors who need it the most. So thank you. Miss Marla, I've got about 9 minutes at the top of the hour, and I'm not sure exactly how much tape you have on that recorder machine. I dated myself, didn't I, when I said tape on the recorder? So if it's done digitally, I don't know if it's a bell that goes off, but I don't want to overstep my invitation. My motto is be quick, be to the point, and hopefully get invited back.
Oh, well, we're overjoyed that you have been with us and shared. I've learned so much information that we can actually take back and be able to share in more detail to help the churches and pastors and presbyteries who may be struggling and may just not be aware of the incentives and programs that are available to them and how to take advantage of those things. So one question that I had too, you had mentioned the regional representatives that are available. Is there a list of some sort that we could get of those regional representatives to be able to share?
Yes, and they are all on the website with
Okay.
bios, and many even have videos kind of introduce themselves. And so at pension.org, does type in the name or the region, and more than likely it's going to be a direct link. And please let them know that Jerry Cannon said call. Okay.
Thank you for that.
But we are standing by, ready to help.
And this is the goal for this year for our Urban Presbyteries Network, is to bring guest speakers like yourself, Dr. Cannon, who can share with the constituency the services that are available so that we can be the church together and grow together. So thank you so much for being with us. Tony, yes, thank you. And thankful that we have recorded this session and we'll be able to share it going forward. And I'll turn it over to Tony and/or Carlton to close us out.
Nothing from me except to say thank you indeed, Reverend Dr. Cannon. And don't be surprised if we ping you again in the very near future.
It would be an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. This has been phenomenal. I think you are absolutely right that there are a lot of pastors and congregations that have no idea the kind of resources that are out there. So I know there are a number of things that piqued my interest and surprised me at the same time. So I'll definitely be giving my rep a call soon with the special Jerry Cannon code, seeing if I can get that special incentive.
Double incentive you use.
Thank you, Tony. You're so kind. I'm going to try to use that too. I'm going to go over here to the Dunkin' Donut, and I'm going to drop the Carlton Johnson code and see if anything's happened today. They might charge me double, right, Marla? I don't know.
It's buy one get one free when you use my name.
Okay, but I got to buy I just want the free one. I don't want to buy the one. I mean, I want the free one. Thank y'all so much. It's been a joy, and blessings upon your ministry. If I can ever assist, please don't hesitate to give me a call or send me an email.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jerry.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful day now.